Hi everybody, Rich Boesel here again. I'm going to show you today how to tie a soft tackle that we've been using that's been catching a lot of fish over in Tennessee. This is actually, I like tying soft tackles, and this is one of my patterns I came up with that really seems to be working well recently. I'm tying this today on just a regular hook. This happens to be a Daiichi 1120 size 12, just for demonstration purposes, but size 14 seems to be the one that really seems to work really well. And this is a 1/8 inch slotted tungsten bead that I'm using. You can use any kind of tungsten. I like tungsten beads, but I got a lot of slotted beads because I've been tying a lot of Euro-nymphs on jig hooks. But since I'm not Euro-nymphing, I don't really want to do this on a jig hook per se. I think I'm getting better hookups with just a regular hook, a regular curved shanked hook. When you put this bead on, though, because if you use the slotted beads, they have a thin section which hangs down low. Kind of right now, I got it kind of hanging low. And the distance between the bead and the tip of the point of the hook closes off if you do that. So you want to kind of rotate the bead around when you tie this in, so that when you do the final tying, the thin part of the bead is on the bottom and it pushes the bead up a little bit away from the tip of the hook, increasing that gap. And I've got better hookups that way. I didn't really pay attention to this before, but this is something that makes a difference, because I had a lot of strikes on a couple of the flies, and I noticed that when I tied those, I didn't tie them with the bead pointed up like this, or lifted up like this away from the hook tip. So anyway, we'll get to that later on. We're tying this with 70 denier ultra thread and hopper yellow. Yellow seems to be a good color right now over there. So we're going to be using this, and just going to initially just get my thread started on here. I'm sorry about my base is a little bit wiggly here, so apologize. Hopefully that doesn't screw things up. And we're going to tie this all the way back. So it depends on how long you want your body of your fly to be. So then I'm going to come back here, and I'm just going to build up a little bit, because when I wrap the cord, which you'll see in a minute, I want this part to be just a little bit thicker to kind of create a little bit more of a tapered body. So we're just going to build up this midsection just a little bit more. Alright. And then we're going to put in a tail, and I'm using chucker, but you can use pheasant tail, you can use anything you want to. We're just going to take a couple fibers of this and stick this in. Pheasant tail works well, coq de lion works well. We don't need them sticking out too far. Just tie those in a little bit tight, like that. Alright, and we'll come up here, and then we'll cut off the waist, and boom. So again, then we'll just trim this up a bit, tidy it up a bit, as they say. Alright, and the next part of this is putting in the ribbing, and the ribbing that I use for this is a vinyl ribbing, and this is a midge size. You can use the medium size. I don't know why they don't make a small, but this vinyl ribbing is kind of a half cord. So it's if you look at the very tip of it, if you can see, one side's flat, the other side is curved, and you have to almost look with your little magnifying glasses to figure out which side's curved and which side's flat. But we're just going to tie this in flat side down, and I again put this right on top of the hook, because I don't want to put anything between my hook point and the actual fly itself. I mean the actual top of the fly. So we don't want to decrease that gap. All right, so I'm just going to put some extra wraps in here. Whoa, I just screwed that up a bit. There we go. And then I'm going to use my rotary function to kind of wrap this ribbing around and create my body. So this just makes a nice serrated body, and this stuff's a little bit translucent, so it'll show the undercolor of the thread. And in this case, we used yellow thread, but if you use olive thread or any other color you want, whatever you think is going to be working on your river is going to be good. And we don't have to go all the way to the tip. In fact, I don't really like to go all the way to the front. We're going to tie it off there. And that's probably good. We'll cut off our ribbing here. And the next part is to dub in a little bit of a botting, and I like this ice dub, and this is pheasant tail color. The ice dubbing gives a little sparkle to the fly, and I think it really helps attract the fish. So I just use a little bit of this to create my body. And we'll dub this in. Not quite enough. Almost. Maybe just a smidge more. Just put a few more fibers in there. Just to kind of build that body up a bit more. There we go. That looks about right to me. A couple little flyers in there, but we can trim those up really quickly. Alright. And now we're going to rotate that bead and try and get that set the way I said before, to try and make sure that I'm lifting up on that bead head a bit to get it away. Put the thin part down. Okay. Then we're going to take our soft hackle, and you can use anything you want to for these soft hackles. Obviously partridge is the number one thing. This happens to be a little quail feather that I have. It has some nice little striations and stuff in it that we'll be using. So we'll prepare our feather here by stripping off the fluff. And then what I like to do is take the very tip, and we're going to tie this in by the tip of the feather. But the first thing I got to do is just get it stripped back nicely. So what we do is we strip back we comb back kind of all the feathers, and we leave the tip out so we can tie that in. And then the nice thing to do is, if you can find your soft hackle pliers and put it on, it makes it a little bit easier for you to manipulate and tie this in. And this is really the only tricky part of this whole thing. And I like to tie this in, and I don't really worry about those little feathers that come back. I don't think the fish see that, so I don't trim them off anymore. I used to trim them off. And then we're just going to wrap our soft hackle, staying in behind our thread. And we'll just kind of keep doing wraps, moving forward in front And again, you can use partridge for this, which is obviously the ideal thing. But for this purposes, I'm just using this to demonstrate. And then we're going to tie off our stem. Kind of pull these all back. Go in front and behind that stem a couple of times. Kind of like that. And then we can trim off our little stem. There goes something on the floor. Alright, so you could potentially just whip finish this now and be done. You make sure my bead is set right. But what I like to do here is put a little collar on it, and this is another ice dubbing. It happens to be shrimp pink, and it's a really cool color. And I just put a little bit on here to make a collar. This is very, very little, but it helps push the feathers back from your soft tackle, and it creates just a little bit of a color dub there. I need just a tiny bit more. Just a few fibers here. And again, you probably could put some more of that peacock dubbing on if you want to, just to kind of do this, or if you have any other kind of dubbing that you want to use that's bright, just to create a little bit of a hot spot collar. So we're just going to wrap this in like that, and then we'll whip finish this and be pretty much done. So that's pretty much it. I like the feather that I select to the length of the feather to be about back to where the curve of the hook kind of starts. So that's kind of when I select my feathers, I try and select a feather that's going to be about that length. Some people like it shorter, but I like this extra wispiness to the fly. Then one other thing that you can do, there's a little hole, let me see if I can show it, right here, which is where the slot from the bead kind of shows a little bit. What I've been doing is taking just a little bit of black UV, again I like the UV stuff, this is from Loon, just a little rosin, and we're just going to drip just a smidge of that right into that hole and right onto the back part of the bead to create just a little black spot. This is always a little bit tricky, just like that. And then we hit it with our UV rosin light, boom. That fills in that little hole. It also seals all your threads down and makes the fly a lot more durable. So that's pretty much it. You know, I think you can tie this lots of different ways. You can tie this different sizes. I tie this also very similarly with a jig hook for uranymphing. But I've been finding that when I float the a jig hook underneath, like a hopper, I get a lot of mishits. I seem to get a lot more mishits than when I use a regular hook. So give this one a try. It's been catching a lot of fish.